Crohn's disease looks like this inside of the small intestine, and it all starts after a traumatic event. I used to have horrible digestive issues, but I fixed them 100% naturally. I help others get better with my 13-day protocol. You can learn more about this in my free instant webinar after this video. The traumatic event that put my small intestine into overdrive was seeing my girlfriend have a coffee with another guy. Depending on how your subconscious perceives this shocking event, oh, I cannot digest that girl. Okay, we're going to develop a cauliflower growth to produce extra digestive juices to help you digest your girlfriend. Or I can't absorb her, so okay, we're going to produce a flat growth to help you absorb your girlfriend. The amount of cells that get developed depend on how intensely you perceive the conflict. Some people might not care at all. But when the conflict gets resolved, the body no longer needs these extra high maintenance cells and it starts to get rid of them. We're removing physical flesh from the body, so it becomes this bloody, painful, mucousy process. And it turns into Crohn's disease when this conflict has been off and on, off and on, off and on for years, and this cell proliferation and cell removal just goes on and on and on, and the small intestine turns into a mess. This was discovered by Dr. Hammer, and he could look at your brain CT scan and look in the brainstem, and everybody who had Crohn's disease or inflammation in the small intestine, they would have a ring in their brain right there. When we experience that conflict shock, it's like a bolt of lightning to our brain. And when that conflict gets resolved, healing happens on the intestines and on the brain. And that's why fever and headaches is a popular symptom with Crohn's. So the way that we fix Crohn's disease is, number one, we have to become consciously aware of what this conflict shock is. What was the shocking moment? Not just what was the conflict, oh, I was stressed out with my girlfriend. What of the 10 crazy things that she did, what was the one thing that put your gut into overdrive? That is step number one. Then we need to find the PTSD triggers. So I had coffee my whole life and I was fine, but after catching her drinking coffee with another guy, every time I drank coffee, or more specifically a cappuccino, I would get diarrhea. I could actually have coffee and I could just be just fine, but if I had a cappuccino, I would get horrible diarrhea. Even though I wasn't in my head like, oh, cappuccinos, they remind me of her. I'd drink a cappuccino with a smile on my face and I would get diarrhea. We have to find these subconscious PTSD. Just becoming consciously aware with them many times stops the symptoms. And sometimes we need to do work to no longer get worked up over this girlfriend, or maybe find another girlfriend. But a lot of times, this person finds another girlfriend and they bring that trauma, like their whole perception skewed, and they bring that trauma into the new relationship. Sometimes somebody's gut's been in overdrive for so long, there's irreversible damage, but the way that we stop getting further symptoms is we rewire this conflict in our brain, this memory in our brain. And that's what my 13-day protocol does. And my webinar goes into much more detail and has much more science behind this. Crohn's and colitis were actually classified as psychosomatic diseases before the 1970s and 80s. So the first step to getting better is literally getting out a pen and paper and just start writing stuff down and trying to, organize a timeline.